night, Bernie Sanders finally got a little bit feisty on Twitter, sending out these two tweets targeting Donald Trump. You're seeing this first. Finally, real Donald Trump and I agree on something. He and I both want to run against the other. Guess who wins? And then in the second tweet, you actually see who will win in that little matchup that they both are so desperate for, with him crushing Donald Trump by 13 points. Now, let's leave that up for a bit because, look, you have to acknowledge that Hillary Clinton is also beating Donald Trump in that poll from late December, just about 2.5 weeks ago. She is still beating him, although she hasn't in some polls. But the advantage of Bernie Sanders is that rather than beating by 7 points, he's beating by 13. That's a huge difference. I mean, that's its own landslide of a difference between the two. And thinking ahead to the general election, things can change and you can go up or down a few points. And so why not have those 6 extra points as a nice little buffer? But I'm not just talking about this to laugh at Donald Trump, although that certainly doesn't hurt. There are 2 very good reasons why I think these polls and the reality that right now, although things might change, Bernie Sanders is doing better against the GOP frontrunner, that we should focus on that. And the first is that I keep hearing about the electability advantage that Hillary Clinton has. And every time I hear it, I wonder if people just have blocked poll on their Google Chrome. Can they not see these things? Now, yes, she is beating Bernie Sanders in the primary right now. Not necessarily in all states, but overall, if you look nationally, although that doesn't really matter, she is beating him. Big lead. But when it comes to the actual general election, he has this 6-point advantage over her. And what's really interesting about this is it's an inverse of what we normally face as Democrats, but the Republicans have their own version of it in the primary. And so what normally happens is you have this wide-eyed liberal primary candidate who's just firing up all the liberals, and then at some point somebody says, okay, that's exciting, everybody wants that person, but eventually we're going to get to the general election, so we need to go for someone more establishment, someone more moderate, and then they can actually win. We have to be realistic. In this case, we get to have our cake and eat it too. We get to have the hardcore progressive, wide-eyed liberal socialist candidate in the primary, and we actually benefit once we move to the general election. We should be celebrating this historic occasion that Bernie Sanders and the support for him has provided for us. So that's with Hillary Clinton. Now, when it goes to Donald Trump, the reason I love these polls and the fact that he's sending it to him is that these polls so perfectly undercut 2 of the main advantages that Donald Trump has, and that's his argument and his appeal. So he says, I am a winner. I win. Other people lose. We're all losing. America's losing, but I'm a winner. I've been a winner all my life. Motherfucker, you're losing right now. You're losing today, you were losing yesterday and the week before that and the month before that. There is no evidence that he has ever been beating Bernie Sanders in a matchup. And for all the talk about winning, I would imagine that winning the actual election would be the most important win that you'd be focusing on right now. But he hasn't had to answer those charges because nobody brings up these polls to him. Make him, every time he calls into Morning Joe or whatever BS CNN and MSNBC show he calls into every single day, bring up these polls and make him explain why he is such a gigantic, historic, massive loser. That would be amazing. Now, it's probably not going to actually penetrate to Trump supporters because they don't mind that he's gone bankrupt multiple times. That apparently didn't make him a loser when 4 businesses that he started all failed. They were able to get past that, but I do like that Bernie Sanders is getting feisty on Twitter. We want to see that fighting spirit out of him. The next step, though, is to configure your Twitter client, however you need to send out these polls every hour on the hour until the mainstream media is forced to finally acknowledge them and also possibly bring them up in front of Donald Trump. And that's my final judgment.